Okay, trying again. Zevachim Mem Zion, this recording is for Friday, October 31st. And we begin 46b, two lines from the bottom. Today's daf is 47. Mem Zion. Amar B'Lazar. Chatos sheshchato shem chulin ksher. If you slaughter a chatos, you know it's a chatos, and then while you're doing it, you're thinking, I'm going to have this for a barbecue tomorrow night at home. Um, or not a question of where you're going to eat it, but you're thinking, I'm just doing shchita so I can sell this in the butcher store. It's not kachim at all, even though you knew it was originally a chatos, but you have the wrong intention. That's still a kosher korban, as we'll see, because at least you know that it's kachim. Um, and why isn't it possible? Because you can only make it possible by picking a different kind of kachim. If it's halal, if it's chol altogether, that your intention is, that doesn't invalidate the korban. Mishum cholin psula. But if you assumed that it was an animal that was chulin and you did the shchita for chulin, then that's no good. That actually makes as we'll see, because you have there's no shaychus in your head to kachim at all. You didn't think the animal was chulin. You did the shchita for l'shem chulin. There's no kachim aspect to it at all in your head, so therefore it's possible. Like Shmuel asked her, now when misasek v'kachim shu possible, how do I know that misasek, meaning you're just kind of fooling around with kachim, right? You're not thinking of kachim, but you're doing something with it. You're doing the shchita without knowing that it's kachim, or without thinking that it's kachim. Shu possible, but that's no good. Shenamar v'shachar ben v'kar lifnei Hashem. He should shech the ben bakar before God. It has to be for some kachim purpose. Amar lo, Shmuel says, I knew that already. What I'm asking you is that how do I know that it's possible? Like, I know that you have to do it that way, right? You have to do it l'shem, whatever it is. But what if you don't? Does that make it possible? Or what's the possible for that? You should slaughter it with your ratzon. In other words, with your intent. It has to be an awareness of kachim in order to make it kosher. The Mishnah said, who can make something pigul? Only the one doing the avoda. So the Baalim handed off to the Kohen. The Kohen is doing the Zrika Sagam, for example, and he has a pigul thought. That's pigul. If while the Kohen is doing the Zrika, the owner is thinking about the pigul thought, then that doesn't matter. He's not the one doing the avoda. But our Mishnah does not agree with this following Tanya. Tanya, I heard that the owners can make something pigul. Amar Rava, my Talmud Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. What's his reason? So it says the offerer shall bring his offering. So by calling the owner, the makriv, the one who's bringing the offering, the one who's doing the offering, even though he's not necessarily doing the active avodah, the Kohen is doing that. So that gives him the status of somebody. He's the owner, so therefore he has the status of someone who can make it people. Amar Bai, Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. These three Tanaim, Kulu Sfir Lahu, they all hold Zemachashe v'Zeobed Havia Machshava. That if the owner has an intention and somebody else is doing the avodah, it counts. It's effective. It makes people. Or how do we know? What's the source for these three that agree with this? Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Hadi Amar. So we just saw Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Eliezer Minayin. Where do we see this said by Rabbi Elazar? That's non hashochet lovi kochavim. If you shecht a korban for an idolater's korban. Idolaters, as we saw the other day, we've seen this brisa already. Shchita shera, it's fine. And Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Elazar says no good, because the intention, we can assume that the intention of the owner of the animal, the Ovid Kochavim who's bringing it, we're assuming that he's not sincerely offering it to God. He's offering it to an idol. So we see that the Jew is doing the avodah, the Jew is doing the shechita. The owner is not doing it, but he still has an intention. we're assuming his intention is for avodah zarah, therefore the carbon is no good. Similarly, with pigul, you can extend that to say that the Kohen's doing the avodah, but the owner is having the bad thought. Then it's bad. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, in the third time, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, what's our source about him? The Tanya. Klal Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Kol she'ein kasher latzniya, whatever isn't fit to be put away, to be stored, ein matzniin kamo, and people don't usually store it. Uchshar lazeh v'hitzniya. But one person, some person actually decided that it's useful, and he puts it away. He takes care of it. Uba acher b'hotzio, and somebody else came and took it out on Shabbos. So what's going on here? We're talking about hotzah. We're talking about you're not allowed to carry something from reshus to reshus on Shabbos, but only midaraisa, only something that is a thing that is something that's significant. And we have all categories of what's significant, what's considered by most people significant, and what's not. What if you have something that's not significant? It's a chip of wood, but I happen to find that chip of wood, when when I don't know, when I was doing something that has sentimental value to me. So this piece of wood to me is very important. It's very significant. Now, so I can't take it out on Shabbos because to me it's something significant. But what if you took my little splinter of wood? So it made it significant for me, but for you, it's nothing. It's not significant. So what's the story? Actually, you can't. You're over because of my appreciation of this item, even though you don't appreciate it, but I appreciate it. So similarly, if the owner has a machshava, even though the Kohen is doing the avodah, it's still people. And the other two Tanaim agree with Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Yossi about the Shabbos issue. No, about the the Rebbe Lazar who's talking about the shochet of animal of avodah zarah, and Rosh ben Lazar who's talking about Shabbos. They certainly agree with Rebbe Lazar Rabbi Yossi about pigul because hashta b'chutz amina, because those two things they have nothing to do with kachim, right? So if outside of the mikdash we say that that another party's intention messes you up, so certainly with kachim b'fnim mibayas, so certainly with kachim with pigul we would say that. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Lazar, who says that about kachim, about pigul, he doesn't necessarily hold like the other two about Shabbos and about the shechita of the animal of avodah zarah, which doesn't take place in the mikdash, because dilma bifnimu diamina. Maybe the only place that we say we're going to count the intention of the owner, even though he's not doing it, that's we're more strict because it's kachim. But outside the mikdash, we're not going to say that. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who talked about carrying the worthless thing on Shabbos, Islay Rabbi Eliezer. He would agree with Rabbi Eliezer about slaughtering the animal of avodah zarah for a carbon because Hashem Shabbos. I mean, if on Shabbos we're going to say that I can cause you, my intention affects you. So so certainly the avodah zarah, the ovid avodah zarah person's intention is going to affect the person who's slaughtering it because avodah zarah is more serious than Shabbos. But Rabbi Lazar, the converse is not true because maybe only about avodas kochavim because it's so significant, so serious. That's why I say the intention of the owner can affect the doer. But because it's like similar to something in Akdash, Shabbat Shabbos, but the piece of wood on Shabbos, then Melachas Machshavos Asra Torah. No, for me, for the person who's actually carrying the piece of wood, it's nothing for him. It's not a Melachas Machshavos. It's not significant. And so we would say that only your own intention can mess you up. Padre Malach Beis Shammai at the end of the fourth parak, and now we move on to the fifth parak of Zevachim, and you will probably recognize this from the morning davening. Ezu Makom Shel Zevachim. Where is the right place in the mikdash for doing the shechita of these korbanos? Kadshe Kadashim, the most holy one, Shechita Sabat Safa. You slaughter them in the north side of the of the Mizbeach, of the Mikdash. Parvasei Rosh Yom Kippurim. So all these, now we're going to list all the Kodesh Kodashim. The animals of the Yom Kippur service, Shlitasol Batsafon, as we said, you slaughter them in the north. The Kibul Domim B'Leisheres Batsafon, and you catch the blood in the bowl in the north. The Domanton of Zaya, Al Ben Abadi Al Parochos Ve'al Mizbach Hazav, and you sprinkle the blood on between the bottom of the Aron and on the Parochos and on the inside Mizbeach, the golden Mizbeach. Matana achas mehen malkaves. And if you any of those, you leave out any of those, it doesn't work. Sherei lo haya shofech al yisod maravi shel mizbeach hachifson, and the last of the blood you pour on the western base of the. Remember, the mizbeach had a base around it that stuck out a little bit. So you pour the blood on the western yisod. But if you didn't do that, that doesn't mess up the carbon. Next, Kodesh Kodashim, Parim and Yisrafim, Usirim and Yisrafim, the cows and the bulls and the goats that are burned. Shlitas of Safon, as we said, the Shlita is in the north. The Kibul Safon, and you catch the blood in the bowl in the north. The Damantan Hazaya al Parochas Velmiz V'Chazal. And you sprinkle the blood on the parochas and on the inside golden mizbeach. And both of these applications are required. Sherei dohe shofech, and the rest of the blood, Yisod maravi shel mizbeach hachitzon, on the western base of the outside mizbeach. Well, that's only okay, but if you didn't do it, the carbon still works. And where do they get burned? In the House of Ashes, which is outside of Yerushalayim, that they designated for these korbanos, for the burning of these korbanos. So Gemara says, "V'nisnei name v'kibul damam chesharis basafon." Like if all of the cases of Kodesh Kodashim that we listed are not only the shchita is in the north, but also the kibul dama, the catching of the blood in the bowl is also the tzafim. So say that in general, don't have to list it for each one. So Gemara says, "Kevadika asham mitzora." No, there's another case that we left out here. That's Kodesh Kodashim, the asham of the mitzora, the kibul dama biyadhu. You don't catch it in a bowl; you catch it in your hand. Shayrei. So the Mishnah left it out of the general statement. V'lo, but wait a minute. Is that right? Are you sure that you don't use the bowl, that you use your hand? But we see later, Asham Nazir, Asham Mitzora, Shitas Batsafon, Vikibodam, Chesharis Batsafon. Right? Well, it says the Asham of the Nazir and the Mitzora, you catch the blood in the bowl. So what are you telling me that you don't catch the blood in the bowl? That's an exception. There's no exception here. So Gemara says, Meikaras of our first the Tana thought that Kibul Domo Biatu. First, he actually thought that it was you catch the blood in your hand, and so he left it out of the general rule that catching it in the bowl. So Shirei, so he left it out. But then it turns out that you actually need a kli. So then he put it back in. Okay, so in other words, the Mishnah is indeed on an incorrect assumption, but we fix it later. The Tanya, and how do we know that this is all the case? The lakach, the Kohen takes from the blood of the asham and puts it on the ear of the mitzora. Yachol b'chli. Maybe I might have thought that you use a kli to catch the blood. Lower v'nasa. You apply it. So manasina ba'atzmo shel kohen. How do you apply? You don't apply it by throwing the blood. V'nasa means you apply it directly with your hand. So v'nasa manasina ba'atzmo shel kohen af l'kicha b'atzmo shel kohen. So the catching is also the same with the hand of the kohen. Okay, so maybe you also when you put the blood on the mizbeach, maybe you should do it directly from your hand. Catch the blood in your hand and put it on the mizbeach. The asham is like the chatos. Machatos in the kli, afasham ton kli. Just as the chatos has to be, the blood that you sprinkle on the mizbeach has to be caught in a bowl. Likewise, the asham. Nimsa satomer. So how does it turn out? Asham and sarah shnei kohanim mekablim v'sama. There's actually two kohanim that have to catch the blood of an asham. Echad biyad v'echad b'kli. One catches it in his hand, and one in a kli. Zeshakivlo v'kli bolo etzel mizbeach. The one who catches it in the vessel, he takes it to the mizbeach and sprinkles it on the mizbeach, pours it on the mizbeach. Zeshakivlo v'yad. And the kohen who caught the blood in his hand, bolo etzel mitzora. He comes to the mitzora and applies it to the mitzora. Okay, and that's the end of the daf, and we'll stop here. It was kind of a short daf, and I guess Ellie will pick up on Motzei Shabbos.